All right, we're going to get going. If you can't hear me, there's a chat box where the three dots are, and you can just alert me. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Today's session is recorded, and there will be links available to you. You are all on mute, and in order to keep this 30 minutes or less, I ask that you keep your questions to email. I do answer them if you have any. This is a pretty big topic, so it really should be 3 trainings, not 2, but we're going to try to get through it. And I do want to keep it under 30 minutes, so that's really important. For those of you that are new, welcome. My name is Maria Barakat. I am a social media trainer and consultant. I teach courses in digital literacy and digital marketing, and I work with small businesses to help them understand their own buyers' journeys, because that's how you create a content strategy, and it's all about strategy. So today is the agenda. This is part 2 of blogging, and we're going to go through that worksheet that you had from last week, and then we're going to go to step 2, which is we're going to jump into the SEO and the keyword process of a blog. We're going to brainstorm those questions and answers that you worked on, and then we're going to go through an actual checklist of what makes a good blog, the mental preparation process that you need, and then the actual writing template for it. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to look at are those questions that you had on your worksheet. So the first question was, what's the most common question that people ask you about your business, your products, and your services? What are their objections, right? How do they compare you in the marketplace? And what are the problems that you are solving for people? So you're a business owner, you have an expertise, and you want to solve problems, right? Maybe that problem is selling people gifts because we need gifts to give to people. Maybe our teeth need to be cleaned. Maybe we want to teach people something. What is that? So we're going to take the answers that you did to these questions, which, by the way, is an ongoing process. It's not something that you're going to stop. You're always going to be doing that. And then we're going to turn them into your blogs. So there's 4 types of questions, right? So I tricked you. Questions about cost. So people are always asking, no matter what your business is, what does it cost? So we have objections about it. We have questions about it. These should be on your list. People should ask you, right? So it's not, cost isn't always the first thing that concerns people, but it is a question that people have. The second type of question that people have is about problems. So problems either with their experience with you or your website or the product itself or the service. So they experience some kind of problems that make them question doing business with you or doing business again or referring you. So we all have that. It's just kind of standard stuff. The third type of question is comparisons, and this is a big deal. Small businesses don't like to think about competition, and your competition is not Amazon unless you're Alibaba and you're creating something similar to that. We all have competitors. So there's big ones, small ones, there's ones in California and ones in New Hampshire. It just depends. We live in an internet world, but understanding how your customers compare you will go a long way to what you can write. And then the last type of question is your best ofs. So Google, which who knows everything about everything, they know that this is a common search term that people do. The best pizza, the best shoes, the best this, the best that. So you have to think about your business in terms of showing up on a list that says the best of this here. So I want you to look at the worksheet that you have, and I want you to divide your questions that you wrote out, which are the answers, and I want you to put them into these 4 categories. And we're going to circle back to them to help you clarify. But breaking them down into these 4 categories assures that you're offering all of the information that your customers need to make decisions in that buyer's journey. They're going through a process. They're searching for you. They're trying to trust you. They're trying to see who you are. And if you have things that you can write about that cover all 4 of these, then you're in a good position. So now put that aside. So there's a process to preparing to write. We don't just jump in and we don't just write. It's something that has to be planned out. And the very first thing that you have to think about today in a digital world is SEO, search engine optimization. So, and mainly that's Google. About 90% of us use Google as our primary search engine. So we're going to use them as our, pretty much our benchmark for everything. So how do you put SEO into a blog article? Keywords. You have to understand your keywords for your business. It's very important. So you should have a list. There should be a list of whatever it is that you do that are your words that you have. You need to know how people search for you because it's all about the search in a digital world. We have in our hands this phone, and this is how we look for anything. We used to go to the yellow pages. We used to search by key terms, right? I didn't look for dentist under fencing. So if you sell fencing, dental care is not one of your keywords, right? You need to know how that is. And there's two kinds. There's keywords that rank high and keywords that rank low. And really the difference is cost. So if you're going to advertise on Google, they're going to charge you. So the more popular the keyword is, the more expensive it's going to be. And the less popular it is, the less expensive it's going to be. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But I'm going to show you 3 free ways for you to find your own keywords. And you can decide. I'm a Google fan, so that's what I like. And what I did was I assumed that my client sells antiques, right? So here is one, keywordtool.io. And it's free, and I'm air quoting that because you do have the option to look at free stuff. But if you really want to take advantage of it and you're thinking to advertise even on Facebook or whatever, you're going to want to consider upgrading to one of these. But just by typing in the word antiques, it gives me a whole list. So 678 unique keywords. Not all of these keywords are applicable to your business if that's your business, right? Antiques magazine. Well, if you don't have a magazine, knock that off. Roads show. That's not yours, right? Antiques near me. That's something. Antiques for sale. Antiques online. Antiques roadshow. How does this keyword affect you? So this is just showing you the top ranking. Actually, you don't know the top ranking. They're just in a random kind of an order on this particular website. Caparser, I don't know how to say that. They're another free one. They do give you a little bit more information. I do like them because they rank the words, and you're going to see very similar things. If you notice, there's a few little changes. I kind of looked at it. Now, it's automatically identifying that I am in the Los Angeles area. So if you did this and you're in New Hampshire, it's going to show New Hampshire on there. So you may want to put that as a keyword. If you have a brick and mortar store, it's going to be antiques and then the name of your town, because you want to know what people search for that are within a radius of your town. Google is my favorite way to find keywords. They will give you thousands of them, and it's free. They do it because they want you to advertise through them, and it's their keyword planner. It gives you tons and tons and tons. So all the other ones are basically taking off of Google. The problem with Google, in my opinion, is it's a little complicated. They change it. You don't really understand what all of this means. But basically, the good news is that you can export the list onto a spreadsheet and then go through and find your top 20 to 50 keywords that are related to your business. And it's usually, so if you have an antique store, you might want to go in and search again for mid-century antiques, if that's what you specialize in, or, vintage, if that's a word that you use. So vintage antiques did come up. It's a medium keyword. And what these numbers mean here is if you were to advertise and somebody clicked, the pay per click, that's what you would be charged for them to do something. So the more expensive they are, the better they are. Why do you need this? Because you want to make sure that you're using these words in your blogs, in your writing, because this is what I'm searching for, right? I want to know about antique fairs near me that have mid-century antiques, right? Those are my keywords. So all of us as business owners should know our keywords. So those are just 3 options that you can do. So you have your questions and you have your keywords. And then I like to break it down into a process of worksheet where I brainstorm a little bit. So I take that listing. So there's short keywords and there's long keywords. They're called long tails and short tails. But how do people go into Google and type in? That's really the critical thing for you to think about, because it's like the yellow pages. It's bringing them right into where you want to be. So it's not just dentists, but it might be dentists. I don't even know a dentist specialty, but let's go back to the antiques. So there's antiques and then there's mid-century antiques, right? So we want to break it down. The further you can break down your own business, the better you will be. You want to pick your lane. You want to find your specialty, right? That's really critical today. Then what I want you to do, and I have a worksheet that I will send you, is I want you to Google articles on these keywords. I want you to see what other people write about, whether it's Forbes magazine or another blogger, or it's, a TV show. What and how are people writing about related to your business? So you wrote out a bunch of questions. Now let's look and see what they have. And I'm going to give you some examples. Then you're going to take those articles and you're going to think about what your own titles can be, because titles are important. If it doesn't attract my attention in a digital world, I'm not even going to look at it, right? So this is a spreadsheet that I use. Article title. I leave this blank. And then I have the URL. So I go in and whatever my client is, whatever it is that you have to do. So, here's someone who's doing career planning and college planning. So what do they do? So they went to Google and they type out all of these articles. So here's the articles here that were written. But most important, what we're looking for is, what are these titles? So 6 ways college students can better prepare for a career in business. Okay, so that's a Forbes article. So then it's your job to figure out what your topic would be. Maybe you don't have 6 ways. 5 quick ways your college student can prepare for your career. This is a very specific title as related to this one. College students, your college student. So this is someone that knows their business. They're focusing on the parents, not on the students. They're focusing on a very specific niche. And what you do is you take these articles and you create your own topics, right? You're not copying their article. You're just getting ideas for you where you can have 50, 100 titles and you can start writing about it, right? How college students can prepare to be job ready, career secrets for freshmen. So this is a very specific article. It's not for all college students. It's not for high school students going in. It's for college students that are freshmen, right? So using this type of research can really help you. So now here's the list and here's my list. So now what I do is I take these and I put them here. So what is your working title? What are the images you're going to use? Because images are critically important to a blog. You have to have images that relate to the article. Who can write it? This is for those of you that have a team of people. Maybe someone on your staff knows more about this than you. Target dates. There's some content that's very relevant to certain times of the year. So if you're preparing for college and it's now the end of August, you kind of missed the mark. That should have been June, July, right? It's important that you know that. I'm going to explain a little bit about metadata later. So now you have these topics. You want to assemble your blog, but I'm going to give you some thought things to think about first. You should have a notebook. As you sit down to write, what is the problem you want to solve, right? Break it down into those 4 categories. Today, am I going to talk about cost, the technical problems of my products and services. Maybe I don't have a physical product, but I have a lot of technical problems. People have to create time. They have to have skill. They have to have maybe staff to do it, right? It's not always related to cost. Comparison. How are people comparing you, right? So sure, I can teach you how to do your own posting, or you could hire someone to do your posting for you. That would be a comparison question for me. If I sell antiques, what kind of antiques do I sell? What's my expertise? How are they comparing me? Are they going to eBay? Do they know what they're getting on eBay? Are they 100% sure? So these are the types of things that you think about. And then who is the best? So you decide, what problem do I want to solve in this particular writing moment? You pick that. Then I want you to clarify it in your mind first. Why is this topic important to your customers? What's their pain point, right? Pain is not always just price. We are a value-driven society. We are willing to spend $1,000 on a phone. Think of that, $1,000 on a phone. We'll spend $800 on a watch that hooks to the phone, that does the same thing as the phone. So money isn't the option. It's the pain point. I need it right now. That's the pain point that's being solved. What's the pain point? Yours is being solved. What is unique about your perspective? So if you're on these calls and you know that one of my main points, and it's a branding issue, is what makes you different. How are you different? There's millions of people that do what I do, but not many of them have my expertise. Go in. I only work with certain kinds of people that need to bridge that divide. I don't want to work with people that need a staff of people to do work for them. It's very specific, and you all have that too. Why would someone trust you in this solution? So this is a very important thing. So it's related to your expertise, but it's also social confirmation. So if you don't have a good digital presence, there is a segment of the buying population that's never going to trust you because you don't have a website, or you don't have a Facebook account, or you're not posting on Instagram. These are important things to a lot of people, and it's not just age demographic. It's just what people have become accustomed to. The other part of trust is your expertise and making sure that you're clarifying that to people. So just assuming that you've been in business for 30 years makes you an expert in something, a lot of people don't buy that. You have to tell them what it is. And then what happens when they make this change? So you're deciding to write about a problem or a cost or a comparison. What happens when I come to the other side, so to speak? So I read what you write and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I want to see a picture of how that impacts me, because you're solving a problem for me, right? And then most important, what happens if they don't do it? And that's something that a lot of people don't really think about. They're not really thinking about what happens when people don't change. So that's sort of the fear factor, and it can go into your titles and your images, and you can give examples of, what happens when, I give those all the time to people, like, hey, I worked with this guy and he did this, and I worked with this guy and he didn't want to do it, and then look where they are today. One is here, one is here. Solutions. How are they achieving the results? You have to be sure that you're telling people this. How are you adding value in there when you're writing? What are the details of what you're writing? You can't just throw out a very general topic and put very general writing and then assume that people are going to find it interesting and relevant to them. There has to be something. Use bullet points. It's important. Charts. How can you make this solution visible to them? Graphically. Infographics. These are terminology that you should know. You can create your own. It's not difficult. You don't need to hire a graphic designer to do that. You can actually have charts and graphs. And if you take them from other people, just make sure that you're citing that. But it's very easy to duplicate and buy stock photos. So this is a stock photo, right? Now, that's part of my business because I do a lot of graphic design work, but you might not. You might not want to spend whatever the cost is to buy that. But then you would have a source. This is from Forbes magazine, whatever, wherever you took it from. You want to be sure to give people a visible solution as well and how they're achieving that result. And then examples. You need to show what happens when they take action, right? Case studies are very powerful blogs. Very, very powerful. You're not breaking any confidentiality. You don't have to use people's real names. It can be from 10 years ago or from yesterday. Your existing customers are really powerful. How did you impact them? How have you changed them? What was it that you did? There's probably 12 different ways that the same thing has impacted people, right? These are very powerful examples and things that you can write about. Real people and real solutions. This is what we want. I don't want folly, right? Fiction. Back things up with facts. Try to use real facts, a percentage. They had a 10% increase in sales or a 10% increase in their engagement on their Facebook page. And use stories. This is really, really important. I love checklists. I think checklists are fantastic. They make great blog posts. Here's your checklist. I'm setting up some events, and I was Googling, I'm trying to find some event checklists, and I don't really like them. They're, this one's for weddings, this one's for I just want a general. So I might have to create that, and then I might blog about it. So you may have that. And numbered lists are extremely powerful. Now, don't have the 12 things, the 28 things. You can do these really long posts. I mean, they're all out there, but be mindful, Call to action. Never do a blog post without a call to action. This is critically important, and I am not saying buy this. I'm saying what's the next step? You need to tell them. Now you came all this way in my little piece here. What do you got to do? Ask them questions, right? You read this whole thing. Ask them a question. That's a call to action. The thing is that you have to pay attention and you have to respond to the question. And if nobody's responding to that question, maybe go in and ask another question. And then offer them more resources. So sometimes when you write, you might say, if you're interested in this topic, here's a link to another article that I wrote. Bring them back to your website. To learn more about this, go here, click. If you need help with this, click here. If you want to talk to me about this, here. Those are call to actions. So now let's break it down. You have a headline. Your headline is critically important, right? It's grabbing your attention. You want to maybe have a little surprise factor. You want to have a clear benefit. You want to think about those keywords that you're using. It's important. Your opening is probably the easiest thing to mess up because people want to jump right in. I like to talk about a story. This is where the pain point could come in. You want to reach out to them emotionally. Your image needs to be relevant to what you're talking about, right? Behind that image, there's something called alt text, where it's not just a screenshot or image 90240. Alt text is what that image is that helps Google to find that image. Images are very powerful, but they need to grab your attention. Sometimes the image grabs the attention and then the headline follows. So they need to pair, right? It's not barbecue sauce and yoga. That doesn't mix, right? You have to think about how you're doing this to pull me in and to get me looking at what you're doing. We have a 6-second attention span. So it all has to capture us. We read left to right. We see images before we read words. The words need to be relevant. They need to be short, have shorter sentences in there, and talk compelling. If you're going to do a short blog, so you have your heading, you have your opening, you have your images. Now you're going to kind of do a subheading. Make sure that you have headings in there with bolded text so that people can stop, look at the bullet points, go to the next thing. We want to be through this process, so the content needs to be there. Give me a benefit or frighten me, right? Connect with me. Use stories is a really powerful thing. Talk in the first person. I worked with someone here. Call to actions are something that you can put throughout a post. Now, generally they're in a longer blog post, but you could throw them into a very short blog post. It can be, and I'm sure you've seen them, the click to tweets. You know, that's a little bit technical. If you don't have that kind of website, don't worry about it. Share, you could ask them to share. Share this and have a share button there. Subscribe. If you're liking this article, subscribe here. Link to other articles. So there's nothing better than to be talking about one thing and saying, if you want more details, click here. And then it brings them to a blog you did 2 years ago on the subject that you're talking about. It's very important that you have that. And then tell people what they're going to learn. Give them the outcome right up front. You want to have these things bolded, right? It's very important. So here's some other like writing tips. You want to optimize, of course, for your keywords and your long tail phrases. These are important. Sentences always should be short and easy for the reader to digest. We don't want long text here. And if you were that kind of a writer, you wouldn't be on this call because you would already be blogging. You're someone that enjoys that process, right? Giving information is really critical. And always write to one person. So think about the client that you really want. There they are. They need your help bad. We all have them. We all go home, scratch our heads and say, I don't know why they didn't hire me to do this. That's who you're writing to. That's who you're connecting to emotionally. That's who you're telling them about the outcome, and you're showing them the benefits. Do not be afraid to share the details of your work. The more you share, in fact, the more customers you will have. So even authors should be sharing chapters of their books with people. Why? Because it gets me excited and I wanna read the whole thing, right? You're not giving it away. What you're giving away is your knowledge and your expertise. That 6-second attention span is really important. Always have links inside your blog post. They don't always have to be throughout, but they can be at the bottom, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then images need to be relevant. I would say that in a basic, 4 or 5 paragraphs of blog, you're going to have 3 images in there. You're going to have your header image. You're going to have an image that might be a chart. So a chart could be an image. You're going to have some kind of compelling thing for me to pull me through all those words, because I don't like words anymore, right? It's important. Now, if you're going to go longer, you're just going to duplicate that process. You're going to do another subhead, more content, call to action. You're going to add another promise. You're going to go into the steps. You're going to say, okay, so now I gave you this. This is the steps that person went through. Number 1, they had to do this. Number 2, they had to do that. Number 3, and there's numbers there, 1, 2, 3, and there's space, white space in there, right? How to do this. A lot of people are hesitant to do that because they say, well, if I tell them how to do it, then they're not going to want to hire me. That's not true, because we don't want to do it. So I'm telling you how to write a blog. That's the first thing people always ask me. Can you help me write blogs? Could you write my blogs for me? I can write in my sleep. I'd rather teach you how to do it because I think it's important, but you got to show people how to do it. Then you have your call to action, especially as you get longer. If it's something you're offering to sell right there, you can say, buy this now. If it's a book, if you're an author, or if there's a session that they're signing up for or a product, then you can say that. You can also say, learn more, subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe is a very powerful call to action because it builds your list, and it's very important. Don't forget about hashtags. Hashtags are very, very important. And I'm going to include this in my follow-up email so you can see, the number of hashtags. And, this isn't a true picture, because obviously you're on Instagram. Instagram has, you can use 11 hashtags, and on Facebook, they say don't even use hashtags. I always do. I use one or two. It's really a powerful thing as long as they're relevant. So putting hashtag chair, if this is antiques, right? And you show this great mid-century chair and you just do hashtag chair, yeah, it reaches millions of people. But wouldn't you rather have mid-century chair, velvet mid-century chair? Those are relevant. Better less with value than more and have it be silly. So that's important to think about. And always think about how people search for you. So hashtags are the Dewey Decimal System of the internet. It targets people right in. I don't just want the history section. I want World War II SS officers. That's what I want. I don't want to know everything. I want to know a very specific thing. That's what hashtags do for you. They help you in that search process. Then when you write, you always need a footer. So your footer is down where the bio would be, right? On some blogs, they look like this, but you're the authority. So you should be writing this article in a way where the tense is the same. So you could make it personal. You can write it in the third person if that makes you feel comfortable. But don't put your bio in the third person. Don't say, Maria Barraquette is a blah, blah, blah. You want to be a person. You are the authority. That's important to people. Make sure your contact information is there. Just because they're reading this on your LinkedIn profile doesn't mean they know how to contact you. Maybe somebody sent it to them. I need to know. How do you want them to contact you? You want them to call you, email you, go to your website? What is it? And then have your social links if there's space. Depends where you're blogging and what it is. If it's right on your website, obviously your social links are already there in the footer of your page. But if you're writing and reposting this blog on your LinkedIn profile, then you need to have your social links there. And you always want to include your website, something in your website. Learn more, and then they click and it brings them to the page on your website that's helping them. So your footer is a very important part of the whole blog. And I think when I look at people's blogs, especially people that write articles on LinkedIn, which is a very powerful place to write them, they always forget that. It's really funny. Something to remember. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. So you're not selling in a blog. You're educating people about something. That's why those questions are powerful, because your products, your services are fantastic, but educate me. Help me solve a problem in writing, and I'm going to go to that bio and I'm going to find you. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to get on your newsletter. This is the most important part of blogging that people cannot even imagine. You are the expert. You have a passion and a love for the business, or you wouldn't do it. That's what needs to come out in the blog, is that expertise. We want to read articles from experts, right? Not just journalists. Remember, in college, your favorite professors were the ones that actually had real experience. They were the ones with the stories. They were the ones with the passion. They were the ones that gave you all that information. So you want to educate people. So I want to leave you with that because it's really, really important. And you need to answer these questions all the time. Those 4 categories are really important. You should blog every single week. You should be answering a new question for people every single week. And don't worry about how many people are reading it or following it or like it. Just get the process going. The more you write, the more you will write. So next week, we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about the holidays. And even if you're not a retailer, there is a holiday schedule that you should think about, because businesses tend to slow down. Service businesses, and some businesses pipe up, right? But all this should already be done, but we're going to talk about that holiday calendar and some ideas for retail businesses, but also for service-based businesses, and how you can offer your own services as part of that. And there's certain places that are really important for you to promote it. So Our weekly questions: how many new emails did you add to your list? Very important. Total sales of the week. Total sales of the week are for you to understand which one of your products and services are really resonating with people. Maybe it's seasonal. Employees, they all need to know what you're up to. Fans, it's very important that you're looking to see week by week. Sometimes that's the best gauge of your business. Social and digital media doesn't translate the way advertising used to in the newspapers. So seeing that your fan base is growing is really important. Knowing your most popular piece of content is critical because you want to duplicate that. And your engaged followers. These are your biggest fans. They work for you for free. For free. We're going to talk a lot about them in the holiday thing. This is a time not just to send them a Christmas card, but to really engage them even more. And then how are you improving customer service? You're all on this call and you're doing that. Because if you're trying to improve your own marketing skill, you're improving your customer service skill. We're all marketers in this world today. So I want to thank everybody for coming. You will receive an email with the links. I apologize. Last week it went out really late. It was done. It just, I didn't schedule it until someone said, hey, I didn't get your email. So I will get it out quicker and you will have it. And then hopefully I will see you next week. And I hope to talk with you about your blogs. I'd love to hear some of your success stories on your blogging. So have a great week.